What is up, everybody? Welcome in. It is Thursday, September 15th. Apparently, it's late. Whatever. Please forgive me. I am your hostess. Today is your Daily Dog Take. I'm your host, Jacob Edwards, 13. I am joined by a trio of amazing Jets guests, the hosts of the Jetway podcast, Lorenzo, Sean, Jake. How are you going tonight, guys?
Living life as a Jet fan. Oh, the pain, as Joe Beningo says. I don't know if you know who that is. It's a talk radio host here in New York. But, just another day and just endure the suffering, as we like to say in Jets Nation.
Yeah, Jake said it perfectly. But overall, I'm doing well. Definitely glad, excited to be on the show.
Doing well and ready to flip the page to the Browns here.
I appreciate it, guys. We do this each week trying to get some new voices in. I love talking to opposing fan bases and kind of getting their kind of take on the Browns. And then, of course, we'll shift most of the show being about the Jets offense. Tomorrow we'll do the Jets defense with you guys. Real quick, guys, if you're trying to get decked out, you need another Victory Monday shirt just in case. Maybe we'll get lucky. I don't know. But if you want to check that stuff out, check out the awesome guys down at Homage. I'll put a link in the description or in the comments, depending on if you're YouTube or Twitter. And check them out. They got Victory Monday. They just released the NFL Blitz line. It's got the NFL Blitz Nick Chubb shirt. It's pretty great. Maybe you just want an Office shirt. That's pretty cool. I got one with Michael Scott on it. It's pretty great. So we can do all those things. So, guys, we are going to jump right back into it and talk about the Jets on offense. But first, before we go to the Jets, I would like to just go around with – well, no, we'll do that at the end. Never mind. So, sometimes this show just flies by the seat of the pants, and we just adjust to it, and it's, late at night, so we'll do what we got to do. All right, guys, I want to start we're going to start with the Jets offense. I kind of did this last week with the Panthers, and I just kind of said, give me a brief synopsis. What are the Browns facing on Sunday? What's your overall thoughts on the offense? And we'll get into some more specifics. I'll start with you, Lorenzo. We'll just go clockwise around the room.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this Jets offense is, especially on our last game against the Ravens, we did not play well. A lot of turnovers, just sloppy play, and really didn't get a rhythm. I think it's a little bit different when Zach Wilson eventually gets healthy, but as of now, it's an offense that is going to rely on the run game primarily and play action for the most part.
Yeah, so Lorenzo put it pretty mildly. You're going up against a quarterback that physically can't move. I say it all the time. He's a literal statue. If it were up to me, I'd be starting Mike White or Chris Streveler because they can actually move the pocket and kind of open up the playbook a little bit more for the Jets. But Myles Garrett is going to be an absolute menace on Sunday. There's no other way around it. George Fant had a horrific game on Sunday against the Ravens, and with a quarterback that doesn't move the pocket whatsoever and is just going to stand there, it's a bad recipe for the Jets offense that will definitely struggle moving the ball. The only way I think they can move the ball is if they really open up the playbook, and that didn't happen last week. So that remains to be seen.
Yeah, like they said, Joe Flacco, this offense just isn't built for a guy like him, and the offensive line struggled mightily last week. So I think the Browns offensive line could have a field day.
Hey, I will give you guys a piece of note. Joe Flacco does own the Browns. So I don't know if that Joe Flacco is still in there, but he knows his way around beating people in Cleveland. I'm just saying I've seen it one too many times in my lifetime. So, I always think that because as soon as a Browns fan, I think anything like, oh, we should win this game, they will not win the game. So
welcome to our world.
Hey, I lived through 1-31. Trust me, I can understand some dark times. I was in Afghanistan for 0-16, so I watched all of 0-16 overseas. So it was just a little bit of an extra kick in the pants when we talk about that sort of thing. So if you're looking at it from an offensive line standpoint, I mean, just because we'll start there and kind of go to the skills positions, and we'll talk a little bit about Flacco and that sort of thing. But with the offensive line, do you think there are changes? Are they going to make changes? Is it going to be the same unit that they rolled out last week? Are they, do you see them potentially, like you talked about, moving the pocket, doing some things, and maybe getting some help on Myles Garrett, some things like that? Or do you think that this is the kind of regime that's just going to throw it out there? Because I was in Cleveland last year with Matt Nagy refusing to change anything for Justin Fields, and I watched Fields get sacked 9 times. And I mean, he was running the same. He was letting Jason Peters out there just one-on-one with Miles, who had 4.5 sacks, should have had 5.5 sacks in that game. And he was just ramming his head into the wall, trying to figure it out. Is that something you think that the Jets may unfortunately try, or do you believe there are some kind of changes and some kind of at least attempts to do something better in week 2?
No, I think that's their main game plan is how do we stop Myles Garrett from hitting the quarterback. I think we even saw it last week against the Ravens pass rush where we were using our tight ends, Tyler Conklin and CJ Uzama primarily to help on that side, especially the left side now with Myles Garrett. But honestly, you can't underestimate Jadeveon Clowney as well. So I think our coaching staff will at least attempt to make an adjustment. If not at the start of the game, then definitely halftime.
Yeah, I think the big thing Mike LaFleur has to do, like I alluded to before, is open up the playbook. But also, you need to get the ball out quick if you're Joe Flacco. A lot of screens, a lot of quick passes, a lot of slants, stuff that doesn't require Joe Flacco sitting in the pocket for a long period of time because the Jets just don't have the horses on the offensive line to protect for long enough. And if you leave him back there for long enough and you give him too much time and you have all these long developing plays, it's a recipe for disaster. And Flacco's going to throw it to the other team. He's going to get sacked. And Lorenzo was right with the tight ends last week. I think we could see Jeremy Ruckert, Ohio State's very own Jeremy Ruckert, make his NFL debut and help out. We have a rookie on the offensive line as well, Max Mitchell, fifth round pick. Actually played pretty well last week and wasn't our worst offensive lineman. It was actually the guy that we paid $17 million to, Laken Tomlinson, at left guard. The left side was just awful last week and needs to play better. But, getting the ball out quick, providing help with the tight ends, and opening up the playbook is the way for the Jets to move the ball.
There shouldn't be really any changes with the line just because they got like minimal practice snaps as a unit because Dwayne Brown went down, Becton went down. They moved Fant from right tackle to left tackle. So they should be better this week. Who knows how much better, but as the season goes on, it should be a better unit than what they showed last week.
And that's always really important. I talk about that sometimes with like Jacoby Brissett's struggles last week. I thought some had to do with a lack of cohesion with his wide receivers, just where, Deshaun Watson got a ton of first team reps in practice in the first preseason game and things like that. And they really didn't turn it over to Brissett until about a month ago. So I totally understand that. I think I had forgot that they moved Fant. I knew they were down to what was considered maybe the third left tackle, but I just forgot that was a complete position move. And as a team that has watched a left tackle try to transition from a right tackle for 3 years now, I can understand that it can be some growing pains and there can be some stuff. But I will tell you, the good news is that they did play well for one game, but our defensive tackles, not very good. So you don't have to worry so much about the guards and center in this situation because I think Jordan Elliott and Taven Bryan have had, they played well last week, but overall there's just not a lot of talent with the Browns defensive tackles. So if you guys like the power run scheme, which we're going to get into, I think that is where you can find some success. But I will say, and I'm glad you guys brought up the quick passing game because that is where Mayfield was successful last week. He did have a couple of big gains that were on some busted coverage, which is kind of a trend of Joe Wood's defense from time to time. There are some miscommunications with those defensive backs. There's a Browns commentator, Jake Burns, who always says that it doesn't matter if you're the smartest guy in the room. If you can't get what's in your head to your players on the field, who gives a shit? Like, it's not going to work. And sometimes that happens with Joe Wood. So I will say there are some miscommunication issues with the Browns, and Flacco, well, he's been around long enough. He can at least give you that, I think, because I do know, there's almost not a trio of young wide receivers I like quite as much as I like the Jets wide receivers, because I did curse you guys for drafting my darling Elijah Moore last year. And I mean, I screamed the F word at the TV when the Jets drafted Elijah Moore last year. So I'm very, very high on him. And of course, I thought Garrett Wilson was wide receiver 1 in this draft class, but him and Drake London. So let's talk about the running game. Is this a team that primarily focuses on power, zone, wide misdirection? Is it more of a power team? What kind of running style are you looking at? And if the Jets are capable, if the Jets win, and it's, as you guys have told me, on the back of the running game, what kind of style, what's going well for the Jets if they're able to do that?
Yeah, they're definitely hitting the zones. I think both of our running backs have good vision, especially Michael Carter. He showed it a couple times last week. He's also just hard to bring down, very hard to tackle. So honestly, I think in order for us to definitely have momentum in this game or even try to win, definitely have to utilize a run game and definitely get both of our backs involved, because I think they do things. They both do things well. Those are different things. I think Michael Carter is a little bit better catching out of the backfield, but Breece Hall's a very good runner in his own right.
Yeah, you have to remember the Jets don't deploy a fullback and they don't roster a fullback. So power running is not really their MO. It's a lot of stretches, counters, misdirections, and a lot of creativity that way, pulling a lot of the guards to generate the run game and get that aspect of their offense going. So if the Jets do want to win on Sunday and move the football effectively, establishing the run game early is critical. And like Lorenzo alluded to, Michael Carter's probably our best running back right now, even though we drafted Breece Hall early in the second round. He fumbled on Sunday. Just really needs to learn how to be a pro. Kind of what we saw with a lot of young running backs across the NFL. Jonathan Taylor struggled early on. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is finally starting to get it. No one's really that great from day one as a rookie, and we expect Breece to come on. And you're going to see a lot of Michael Carter early. You're going to see Breece Hall kind of be that change of pace guy, because I think the Jets don't want those rookie mistakes, especially in a game that's being competitive. They don't just want to throw Breece Hall out there and set him up for failure. So, like I said, it's going to be, if you're looking for a touch difference, it's probably going to be like 65% Michael Carter and the rest of Breece Hall. There's really nobody else that the Jets use in the running game.
Tons of hype with Breece Hall, but Michael Carter is a very good running back. He played well last week, so definitely expect a lot of both of them. But Michael Carter is going to catch a lot of balls, and they'll be their two main pieces on Sunday, I think.
It's a similar. It's definitely a similar offensive structure to what Cleveland has, I think, with both Stefanski and LaFleur coming from this same style. That Shanahan style tree. Stefanski's is a little more Kubiak than it is, Shanahan, but I do see kind of some mirrors in there, which is always fun, in my opinion, to see very similar styles of offenses go up against each other, because you have, Kevin Stefanski is aware of some of the things that they're going to try to do, that the Jets are going to try to do on offense, and the other way around. And I'm high on Robert Saleh. First off, am I saying that right? Is it Saleh?
Yeah. Robert Saleh. Yeah, it's close enough.
Okay, because I hear so many dramatically different ways to pronounce it, and I'm always like, I'm still convinced that I'm not pronouncing our center's name right. I don't think it's Pocic, but that's just what I keep saying, and people just let me do it. So I'm just trying to figure out how I'm supposed to say these things, because I look like a big dummy on the internet every day. So let's do the passing offense real quick. We'll go around and we'll wrap this thing up, and we'll see a gentleman back for Friday night. And everybody knows I'm recording both of these back to back on a Wednesday, so I don't know why I'm keeping up this charade, but here we are. So you talked about quick game. You talked about the screen game and getting the ball out of his hands, because Flacco is a statue. And are you concerned that he can't? Do they have the ability to take shot plays when they need to, is what I'm getting at.
He still has a big arm.
Yeah.
But they just don't have the time to really get that aspect. I mean, when I tell you that this guy can't move, he can't move. Like, for instance, there was an opening. I don't know if you definitely didn't watch the entirety of the game. The Browns were on at the 1 o'clock window as well. Yeah. But there was an opening on the left side. He tried rolling out, and it was just wide open, nothing but green grass whatsoever. And it was Zach Wilson. It's probably like a 40-yard gain. He's probably still running. And Zach Wilson, not the fastest quarterback in the world, but he is so slow that he lost a yard. He's that slow. And it's not just running. He doesn't move up, down, sideways. Like, not every quarterback in the league is Lamar Jackson or Jalen Hurts or a guy that can run. He just sits back there. It's almost kind of like, remember Phillip Rivers at the end of his career where he just didn't just
With the
move
Colts.
at all with the Colts. He just sat back there, and if he got sacked, he got sacked. That's what it's like.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Good.
I was gonna say, yeah, Jake said it perfectly. I mean, he's not moving at all. And I think in terms of like the big plays, I think he definitely has the arm, but a lot of our receivers are more middle of the field yak guys versus, let me just run straight past somebody, 80-yard bombs, things like that. It's more like if the Jets are going to score touchdowns, it's going to be 8 to 10 play drives to get that done.
Yeah.
And you just get the ball in your guys' hands. You mentioned you were a big fan of Moore before. That's the kind of guy. Just give him the ball in open space and see what he does. Players like him, Braxton Berrios, Garrett Wilson, who didn't play too much on Sunday, but hopefully we see more of guys like that.
Yeah, I definitely do believe they have the yak guys. It's the same situation. Jacoby Brissett can move like a smidge. He can move. But typically he moves. I always talk about Brissett like kind of like I remember Roethlisberger. Like he was moving with power, and that was why you were not taking him down. Although Roethlisberger had like a 45-yard touchdown against the Browns one time, and it was just on the ground, if you can believe it. It was an absolute nightmare. Took like 3.5 minutes for him to run it, but here we are, right? Somehow we figured that one out. All right, so we've talked about kind of the style of play, kind of what they want to do. I assume a lot of misdirection, play action, kind of similar to what the Browns try to do to kind of try to deceive you, because the Browns actually, I think, don't have quite the wide receiver talent that the Jets do, so they have to be even more deceptive. But the Browns are sitting in a position. My thing is, how do you feel? I'll ask about one Browns player on defense, and we'll wrap this thing up. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah has made it a living not being blocked because of his athleticism. I watched some wild play where he was standing still and somehow slid around a lineman and hit McCaffrey. It was a play action, so it didn't do anything, so you probably haven't seen it. It was a play action. He thought it was a run. He smashed into McCaffrey. Do you feel good about the running backs' ability to protect against blitzing linebackers, and are they able to kind of in open field? Do you think Michael Carter catching the ball out of the backfield has the ability to bust a big one with the Browns, likely putting JOK to shadow them, similar to what they did a lot with Christian McCaffrey last week?
Yeah, I think to your first question, I think Michael Carter, especially, he's a lot better in the blitz pickups. Like I said, like Jake alluded to earlier, Breece Hall's kind of getting there. We haven't really seen him on third downs as much. I think that's pretty much Michael Carter's role. But honestly, I have faith in Michael Carter to at any point break any tackle or, somehow make a 5-yard run into a 10-yard run. He's constantly done it in his first 2 years. So. But JOW is a really good player. We've talked about him on our show previously in the draft. So that's definitely a guy that we got to look out for.
Yeah, first of all, I watched every Notre Dame game with JOK. That guy is a stud. I don't know how that guy wasn't a first-round pick that year.
52
that was
somehow. He was
complete blasphemy. I thought the Jets were taking him. I think honestly, honest to God, if Elijah Moore wasn't there, I think that was the Jets pick because Lord knows we still need linebacker help. But just to answer your question, Lorenzo's right. It's Michael Carter's job on third down. I don't think Breece Hall is quite there yet. He's not the best at picking up blitzes. That's just something that comes and goes as you grow in the NFL. And if you see Ty Johnson out there, I don't know if you're familiar with Ty Johnson. If you see him out there on third down blocking, just start the buses and just put it in the win column because that guy will get somebody killed out there and he has no hands. So it'll be Carter on third down. And he does have the ability, Michael Carter, to break a big one. I think all the Jets' big plays from last season are Michael Carter runs or Michael Carter catches. I think that's probably their best threat of really hitting a big one, maybe him or Elijah Moore as Breece Hall develops because the Jets really don't have a home run hitter, a three-point shooter on offense. Garrett Wilson, Corey Davis, who should be cut today. That's a story for another time. But those guys are all yak guys, possession receivers. That's kind of the element of the offense that is missing. But if a big one comes, it's likely coming from Michael Carter.
In an ideal world, Bryce Hall's the home run hitter, like like Jake said, but JOK is going to be a big test for the pass blocking for the running backs, and I'm excited to see what they do.
Yeah, I think it. So that I think the key for the Browns is JOK on Michael Carter. I think it sounds like kind of the consensus that if the Jets are able to be successful offensively on Sunday, I think it's going to have to go through Michael Carter. Is kind of what I'm gathering from you guys. Does that sound correct?
Yes. Just one little follow up. How about Denzel Ward? How have you been feeling about his performance? Because that guy, in my opinion, is one of the best young corners in the National Football League.
Yeah, Denzel had one of my favorite Denzel games of all time last week, and that was, I don't remember anything about him. Because they targeted him 3 times all day. He let up like 2 catches for 20 yards or something, and it's the most Denzel thing of all to just be like, "Hey, was he out there today?" Yeah. I mean, that's just who he is. Like, he's just not a huge interception guy. He will come up with a few here and there. Of course, he had that 100-yard pick 6 of Jamar Chase, a Jamar Chase intended touchdown for Joe Burrow that he needed oxygen afterwards. And he just absolutely juked the crap out of Joe Burrow on that play. But I love Denzel Ward. Like, he's also has the ability to do a slide tackle. I watched him slide under a Bengals defender to make a screen tackle in the backfield. If my biggest thing is they do not travel Denzel. They feel confident in Denzel and Greg Newsome and even Martin Emerson, the 3rd-round pick from Mississippi State this year. They feel pretty good about those 3 corners. And my thing is don't throw it. I wouldn't throw it at Denzel Ward. People don't throw at him. Like, that's what, like, they won't throw at him because that is who he is, and he's the most. He's one of those, like, I always think that if you don't hear of a lockdown corner, he was being a lockdown corner, and that's what I think he is.
Yeah, me too.
I think it's always fun when you get an Ohio State player up in Cleveland, and it's a big thing. Like, and you guys mentioned Jeremy Ruckert. I'm really excited about him because he's the most. I was like, give me Ruckert in Cleveland because he's the most stereotypical West Coast Kyle Shanahan style tight end. I mean, he blocks his ass off, and he's got good athleticism. He can make the tough contested catches from time to time, and so I think that he would go a long way. Guys, I really, really appreciate you guys joining me. I will have you guys plug the hell out of everything on tomorrow's episode. Check them out, the Jets Way podcast. We'll talk to you guys again tomorrow, and as always, go Browns.